Did either of you read the source material for solo leveling beforehand, or was it a whole new experience doing it?
No, definitely read it. I am a consumer of webtoons, and I don't think that anyone can be into webtoons and not know what solo leveling is. So, yes, definitely.
I will
Awesome.
say I have read it and I knew about it from friends, but experiencing the anime was a whole different story. But yeah, I have read the source material.
Sick. And Alex, you're playing the lead character in one of the breakout anime of the season here. So how are you feeling about that now that that's gotten going?
It's very surreal because Caitlin and I have been sitting on this for a very long time. Even before we started recording for these characters, it's been a lot of thinking and chatting back and forth about the ideology of this character, and to put it all into practice has been such a huge labor of love, and it's allowed me to showcase a lot of things that I haven't been able to do before. And as a creative, that's just very fulfilling. And also getting to work with Caitlin, Jamal, or audio engineer, it's such a smooth process. So for me, it's been a really, really fun time. And it's great to see that it's finally out now and to see that fan reaction, you know. You always hope that fans are like, I hope they like it. But to see such a strong reaction recently, I was blown away. I was like, wow, that's some high praise. And I'm so, so happy that people care just as much about it as I do and as Caitlin does.
Yeah, it's got to be so exciting. And Caitlin, on a related note to what Alex said, you're directing such a great cast here with Alex and people like Justin Briner and Ian Sinclair. So what's it been like working with this cast on this production?
Oh man, it's been so fun. Uh, I knew when going in that I would like to work with someone I hadn't worked with before. That's Alex. We'd been in projects together, but I'd never directed him before. And so he ended up in the lead role, and that's been a wonderful experience. And it's great to bring veteran actors that I've worked with a lot along for the ride, like Justin, as you mentioned, and Ian, Christopher Sabat, Danny Chambers, so many wonderful people, and many more to come. And also to bring people together from different parts of the dubbing community and different parts of the country. And there's been a lot of excitement and hype around this show. And I like to be able to make something that we can all feel a part of because we really are one big family, you know?
Awesome. And Alex, what aspects of Genu really drew you to the character when you first read Solo Leveling and wanted to do this?
Um, Initially, when I read his story arc before we got really like deep within his sacrificial decision, I was unsure of how I felt about him. To me, at the start, he just seemed like, your typical timid protagonist who eventually will become strong and powerful through a great sacrifice that he heroically offers himself up to. And, it's a cool trope, but it's something I've seen so much that it didn't really interest me all that much. But that actually didn't turn out to be the case with Ginu. As we can see from episode 2, there was a more grounded and real side to something as grand as a heroic sacrifice, because we all want to be heroes. We all want to say that we would willingly do the right thing if it meant saving our friends or even strangers, That's just human nature, is that you want to be a good person, you want to be kind. But when we saw him left alone just by himself to face off against all those statues, he started to have it sink in that this was it. Was there anything else? There's no reward for this? What is there about being a hero that drew him to this? And I think that's when I realized this guy is like everybody else. He's a person who wants to live as well. He's also, selfish. He also has all of these negative emotions. He's not just perfect, even if he's weak. He's not, your typical protagonist. He has feelings of doubt, anger, and even resentment towards those he once called friends. Because when it comes down to it, if you're in a crappy situation, you're gonna hate everybody else. So that's what I related to the most. I felt that frustration really come through, and it reminded me a lot of my younger years when I was trying to get my foot into the industry and also into being an adult. Nobody was there to help me, and I kind of had to guide myself through that. And I could sense such a bitterness about how everything felt so unfair, you know. Before you have anything, you have to start somewhere. And sometimes what gets you on the right path may not necessarily be the right emotion. But that is part of the growth and development of not only a character, but a human being as well, as I like to believe at least.
Absolutely. And similarly, Caitlin, when you first heard Alex, what is it that sold you on him being the perfect Genu?
His range, his range of I guess vocal range sounds like I'm minimizing it. It isn't just vocal range, it's his emotional range. And work of his that I'd heard that showed me he was fearless and unafraid to do things, to push his voice as, I don't want to say as far as it could go, like to the breaking point, because that sounds so negative, right? I would never want an actor to harm themselves. But there can be heard it sometimes in performances a held nature. They're not really laying it all out on the table. And I needed to know that I could have someone who would do that, because he would be called upon many times to do so. And I heard that in his work, and also heard, as mentioned, the range that would be necessary to portray Chinu at all stages of his journey. So
Makes a lot of sense. And Alex, you mentioned that, near the beginning of the series, your character, there's a lot of intense scenes and kind of heavy despair in that first outing. How do you kind of get into the headspace to throw out those crazy screams and really guttural moments?
It used to be a process when I first started getting into what it was to be a performer, because it felt like back then I had to refer to a lot of my older memories and like reopen up my trauma to get in touch with that emotional side. But I feel like for this project in particular, I didn't want to necessarily draw from any specific moments in my life. It was more um, of a it was more of a feeling that I hadn't quite fully understood,
Mhm.
understand what that means. So for me, I just let the animation inspire me and the music inspire me, because A1 Pictures did an incredible job of depicting the scene. And when I saw it in action for the first time, I didn't need to think about what it was like to feel frustrated or to feel like I was betrayed. Just seeing the scene play out in front of me and how it was animated, I felt frustrated for Genu. I felt angry for him and the way that he struggled to not even fight, but to breathe, like let alone breathe and get any air in. I just it just resonated with me so much that I felt all of it in that moment. And that's how I was able to kind of get myself there into the scene. So shout out to the incredibly talented performers for the music, for the animators, everything. It was really something to behold, especially as like somebody who does this so often. I feel like I've seen a lot, but this was like, ooh, woo.
That's incredible. And Caitlin, Solo Leveling's been on fire since it dropped. What do you think it is about the series and its themes that has really caught on with people?
I think there's something that's familiar about it in the game mechanics, and that these are the types of characters. And if you're a hunter, here's the type of things that you could do. So they recognize that and go, okay, I get that. But the fact that it's all taking place within a very modern setting, as opposed to a bunch of heroes spirited away to, a medieval land, and some of them have magic. So there's a little less suspension of disbelief that's required, I think, because of the modern setting. And I maybe that's what it is. And then, of course, all of the things that Alex mentioned about the top-notch animation and music, and maybe the fact that we do focus so much on the main character and delve so much into who he is and why he feels the way he does. It it allows you as an audience member the opportunity to relate to him, as
Mhm.
opposed to maybe determining, I don't like that guy, and then picking someone else in the cast of characters to follow along, and then you only see them every few episodes. I was just thinking, I think while Alex was answering, that it's rare for me as a director to get to spend so much time with a lead character. Sometimes it is my job to help the actor jump from point A to point B because this episode ended, and then in the next one it's a week later and these 12 things have happened, and now it's like we're just getting all of it. Every moment just plays out and we flow with him, and I think that that helps the audience really connect to the story.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Alex, sort of the reverse of the last question, but as the series goes on, Jinwoo gets more confident and kind of settles into himself. So do you have to consciously remember that and put that into the performance as the episodes go on, or does that feel like a natural kind of transition?
Well, there's kind of like three-ish stages to him. There's his timid, weak, and kind of like innocent side. There's his more confident, regular, and then there's one last side that's a darker and more kind of sinister.
Mhm.
It has sinister vibes to it. But for me, once we got into the episode where he glowed up, I was like, "Great, I can talk like myself now." Because for the first couple of episodes, we were very conscious to make his voice match what he looked like, which was this very sweet, uh, kind of small boy. And I had to be very aware of whenever I was doing dialogue that had to do with my thoughts, not to get too into my thoughts, because if I started acting too much like myself, then my voice would deepen in the pitch. But there is a sense of comfort for me when it came to finally getting to be as close as he could be to me, which was like just a guy who's like, oh, great, I've learned all these lessons. I'm confident with my abilities and I'm good to carry on. Um, but definitely when we get even further in the story, I do believe that that will be my chance to take some more cues from Taitoban or Seiyu to see what direction he decides to go with it and kind of use it as a springboard for what we decide to do.
Yeah.
Nice. And my last question for both you, and we can start with Caitlin again, is now that people have gotten a taste of the English dub, what's the fan reaction been like for the two of you? What's that been like?
Um, this I don't know yet. Don't know yet. This is really exciting just to hear from you and know that you're enjoying it. We've been working on it since, gosh, October, I think, in various stages for trailers and previews and stuff like that, and then waiting for it to come out. Um, so, like, I hear from people here and there and folks around the office who are watching it that they're enjoying it. Um, and it's going to sound goofy, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, but like, I knew that it was good. So it
Mhm.
wasn't a question of like, did we make a good thing? Like, yes, duh. How can you not when what you start with is already so fantastic? But of course, you want them to like it too. So
Mhm.
I'm still waiting to get to go to conventions and experience the fan reaction that way, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean, I knew this was a highly anticipated title, but from the reactions that I've seen so far online, I'm actually blown away. Like Caitlin said, not to be arrogant, but when we were working on this, we poured all of ourselves into it. Our dedication and passion. I really feel like it shined through. So I was proud of the work I was doing, but it's always a matter of like, do the fans think it's good? And so far, from what I've seen, people have loved it. And I was blown away because I was like, sometimes I'm like, I'm really proud of this thing. And fans are like, good job. That was great. But to see fans go nuts over it and be like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm so happy to hear that. So it's through all of the stress and the anxiety, it's been the one thing that's kind of kept me going, where it's like, oh, well, I'm glad people are enjoying it, because now it makes me less nervous and even more excited to take on more of it.